Thank you for joining us. This is live with Miami's Community News, and we have a special guest today, the mayor of Miami Beach, Steve Miner. Thank you very much for being here, Mayor.
Thanks, Michael. Great to be here.
So let's talk about all things Miami Beach. First of all, your election, when you were elected mayor, that was a year
November,
ago?
a little less than a year.
A little less than a year ago. Why did people give you the nod rather than the other folks?
There was a combination of a couple of things. One, the law and order theme. People talking about public safety, and I had proven as a commissioner for 4 years that public law and order was issue number one. We're going to tackle spring break, which we did. Also addressing overdevelopment, making smart development. I had legislation on that. And also doing what I say. I'm very clear. I don't play the typical political game. I'm very straightforward what I'm going to do and how I'm going to do it. And I think that resonated with residents.
So let's talk about public safety. Just a few years ago, we saw on spring, there were some devastating shootings that were going on there. And in Dade County, it looked like we were getting sort of desensitized to it. Yeah, that's over there. It's not in my neighborhood. It's over there. It's down the street. All right. But that went all over the country. And it was really devastating for Miami Beach, for starters, not for South Miami, right? And maybe for Miami, but in Miami Beach, specifically. And what did you do and your team do to stop that?
Well, we did a couple of things, and there was tremendous buy-in as well. Our commission was all on board. Our residents were completely on board. 95% of the businesses were on board with all the measures we took, and they were the strictest measures we had ever taken yet, but it was necessary to be done. And I had put together a legislative package, 14 points that our commission was very supportive of, and other commissioners had great ideas as well. But basically saying, we are going to have DUI checks. We are going to restrict parking. We are going to have restrict access to the beach itself after 6 p.m. We put out all the stops. And one of the things that I did that, because we have a tremendous police presence, but I reached out to the governor, and the state provided a tremendous amount of resources as well with state patrol officers. It was necessary, and the message got out. We also had a great marketing campaign. You probably saw Breaking Up with Spring Break, which
yes.
resonated, and the word got out. And it was really an amazing thing to see, because if you had seen what had been going on for a decade or more, the chaos, the shootings, the stampedes, it was not safe. You could just go out there and you could palpably, in the past, it was not safe. You went out this year, it was great. People were out and about, enjoying, spending money, but it was safe.
And unfortunately, sometimes when things start to get out of control, we just sort of got used to it. Yeah, that's just the way that it is. But I'm glad you and the city and the people got together on that. Certainly, one of the big issues on Miami Beach was the serving of alcohol till dawn. So catch us up on what's the current status is of that.
Sure. So there are parts of the city where 5 a.m. is the serve alcohol, like on Ocean Drive, for example. There had been a big push in the past administration to limit that to 2 a.m. I have always supported 2 a.m., but we couldn't get the votes to do it citywide. So what we've done is we've gone through residential areas. We've limited it to 2 a.m. But in the sort of the entertainment district, it's still 5 a.m. Although not a lot of establishments do not stay open till 5 a.m. even though they can. But that is, but there are clubs that are still open till 5.
So it seems like civility has returned.
Yeah, and I think for overall, it's been pretty good. I think when you send a strong message out, it resonates.
A couple of years ago, the state imposed upon the cities the live work program of matching up. I forgot House bill. I think it was 201 that said, okay, you can build this huge building with lots of residential components in it, and as long as it can go up to match something that's within a mile or so away. Has that impacted the city? I know they keep being some changes that are being made, but tell us about the status of that.
It actually has not impacted us that much yet. There may be some things coming down the pipeline, but there's a couple of things. One, even the state's legislation does not override or preempt our zoning laws. So we still have that in effect. For example, one of the establishments on Ocean Drive said they were going to build like this 25, 30-story tower. They at most could go about 5 or 6 stories. So yeah, exactly. And then there was that component of if there's a building within a mile, but we actually changed and passed legislation sort of before the state legislation came into effect that minimized the impact of that.
So we know a lot of the cities were upset when the state tried to impose that. And then the county was doing it to the cities, right? And then the cities do it. Where they're imposing things on the neighborhood. So everybody's sort of doing that. But it seems like the cities did a good job in fighting back on that. And we were in that area here, and we saw what the city was able to do, which said, listen, you gotta have proper parking. Mm-hmm. No matter what the state says, if you can't park, right, and you don't have the green space, whatever it is, you're not going to be able to do that. They were saying that to a lot of people, but certainly there is a place for that somewhere, throughout the county, and hopefully we'll be able to deal with our housing crisis here. Now, Miami Beach is very diverse. Everybody from the whole world goes to Miami Beach, and many of them work there. What does the city itself do to have conversations with the diverse population, whether it's residents or the business people?
Are you talking about housing specifically, or just generally?
Generally.
Housing? Well, it's actually not that difficult. You deal with people like anything else. You treat people with respect and dignity, and you deal with the issues that are important to them. In some ways, our city is very different. You have South Beach, you have Mid Beach, and North Beach, and they're all very unique. And you have to understand the issues that are unique to each neighborhood. And then in some ways, there's probably about 25 different little cities in Miami Beach, because you have each neighborhood is different. And you have to understand those, and you address them as they come. It's actually not that hard if you treat people with respect and you treat the issues that they raise with importance.
What are some things that are important to the citizens of Miami Beach?
Law and order. It's number one. It literally is number one. And now we're dealing with issues with homelessness. And it's an interesting issue, because on the one hand, we're actually doing well. When you look at many other cities, we're actually doing really well, but we could do so much more. And our residents are demanding that we do more. And we provide services. We spend millions of dollars to provide every service available to homeless to individuals, whether it be shelters, whether it be mental health addictions they have. But ultimately, we pass legislation. Sleeping on public property is against the law. We'll offer you shelter, and we'll offer you the mental health counseling. But if you turn those down, we're going to arrest you.
So when we look at that, that's happening everywhere. All right, the county just issued some conversations, and it seems like what happens in California eventually gets over here. So a month or two ago, they said, okay, in San Francisco, we're cleaning up everything. So there was a switch from being very tolerant and allowing that stuff, but it was just too much. And I know in the city of South Miami right now, they can count 3 unsheltered people. They were used to be 15 on a regular basis, and they were able to get them into some programs. We had the Chapman Partnership folks that were here the other day, and they talked about unshelteredness. And part of it is, how do you get these people, get them into a program, and try to help them move forward and get back into society? Obviously, it's tough. By the way, they had an arrangement with Miami-Dade College. If the unsheltered people can move forward, they can go to Miami-Dade and figure out how to get some education there, where they'll be able to go to work. But what more can Miami Beach do so that folks that are unsheltered don't wind up getting arrested? Or in some cases, people say that's really what they want to do, so they can get into a system and then give it to the county. So what can you do?
Well, you offer the services, and sometimes you got to have some tough love and force the services. We had an operation where it's actually just finished. The month of August was an initiative that I had brought, Operation Summer Relief, and basically saying we are going to provide the services, really a full-on gamut from our police, our homeless outreach team, to make sure that every homeless person, first of all, it's so hot, it's dangerous to be out there.
Yep.
We're seeing homeless individuals getting hurt as well. Get them the services they need and make that outreach. But ultimately, it is a little bit tough love. I'll tell you one story I'm very proud of. We have a municipal prosecution team that I transformed several years ago to make sure we're prosecuting, but also offering plea bargain deals to those who get the help they need. We had an individual, and this is one case, there are several others, where they told our municipal prosecutor, I haven't been drug-free in 15 years, but we required for us to reduce the charges that he be drug-free, and he did it.
So some cases there's a punishment, and in some cases there's a reward.
Correct.
And we see that a lot now with people that have cut down trees, and they get penalized, but it's worth the penalty. So some of the cities are saying, we're going to reward you if you do this, and we're going to help you. We're going to put in trees, and we'll be very tolerant of those type of things. And you mentioned about a story, so I understand you're an avid book reader, so tell us about some recent books.
I am. I'm actually reading a book by Bill Maher right now, which is very interesting. So that's a good one. I tend to switch off between reading books about finance, but also different books by different mayors over time to learn their perspectives. Sometimes you get some very good ideas just from people who've lived it and done it.
And you're smiling, giggling, so enjoy that. All right, there's something there that maybe you'll spit out here. So we always hear about, what do they call it when it's floods over there? Over there on Miami Beach, what do they call it? The
flash flooding?
No, the moon, the sun moon. What is that? What do you call that thing when
king tides?
King tide. I knew it was something like that. So Miami Beach is known for that.
Yeah.
Certainly, the flooding and the sea and the changes in the sea and our environment is important to all of us, but especially for the people on the coast. So, what is the city doing to mitigate some of the damage, and what can people that own property do to help themselves so that in 5 years from now it's going to look a little different?
Well, there's so many steps we're taking. That's actually a very important part of what we're working on: infrastructure and sewer and water piping, but also resiliency efforts. We have two major projects going on right now on First Street, near First Street, and also in West Avenue. And part of the problem is it takes years to develop and get resident buy-in so it can pass through commission. But we've gotten two of those just passed at a recent meeting, so that's a big win. We also have seawalls, which are predominantly owned by residents, not the city. So we have incentive programs so that residents can fortify and raise their seawalls. So there's a number of measures we're taking. We understand the magnitude of the issue, and we're hitting it head on.
Tell me about septic tanks over in Miami Beach. Do you have many?
Nope.
All right. So we know in some of your neighboring cities, just with some other mayors, and it seems to be not so much over there, but certainly on the west side. I know there are about 100,000 plus septic tanks that the county is trying to take care of it, which is billions of dollars, to do that. Let's talk about some of the entertainment activities that are, as far as in the fishing arena. Are there lots of boats and people can go over there that rent boats, and exactly where would that be?
Oh, I mean, we're surrounded by water in Miami Beach, so you could literally go, obviously, on the ocean. You could go on the bay. There's not as many boats, but there are by Indian Creek,
yes.
Waterways. And with that comes, because you have the great entertainment aspect, but you also then have sometimes people, unfortunately, misuse the boats and they blast the music. We had an issue with the marina, and I had to pass legislation last year. We had charter boats that were creating havoc over there, so I had to put in basically a curfew.
Okay, we know in a couple of months, I know the month's going to fly by, but we have the boat shows that's over there that draws hundreds of thousands of people, I think, who are very wealthy. They fly from all over the world to come here to pick out the boats.
Yep,
and it's a big deal for everybody. And also, by the way, people can go on to YouTube, and I think on Facebook they can go to Haulover Beach Inlet, where the boats are going in and out, and it's hysterical. If you've ever bored, you can watch it. Ladies can watch it, where the boats are like trying to make it through. It's a lot of fun. In case one night we don't have anything to do, you can watch.
Okay. So, I'll put it on my calendar.
Yeah, I'm sure. Okay, so let's talk about your education. What type of work that you've done, and what type of work you're doing?
Sure. I'm an attorney and practice at large law firms in New York for almost 11 years as a litigator. Came here to Miami, worked at the Securities and Exchange Commission, the federal government, for 17 years, and actually about 2 months ago joined the Farkas Group, which Michael Farkas is an entrepreneur and innovator, and he has several companies dealing with renewable energy infrastructure, solar power, power grids. It's really fascinating stuff. There's partnerships with FIU on that. And I'm actually predominantly focused on a private fund relating to Israel and having Israel dealing with food security and becoming food self-sufficient. Obviously, with the issues going on in the world right now, one of the most important issues is to make sure that Israel is food self-sufficient.
Yes. We have some of our folks here whose children and grandchildren is in Israel, and they just came back from their second trip over there. And it usually takes her a couple of weeks to recover once she comes back. So we're very delicate with her. So her grandkids are this big, who flew back here in the middle of October and stayed here. So the new baby was born here, and they went back to live because that's their home. and certainly that was one of the things that they were concerned with.
Wow, that's great to hear.
Yeah. So there you are. You're an attorney, and you say, did you just wake up one day and said, I think I want to be elected to some position? How did that happen?
Yeah, I wouldn't say it was one day. It's interesting. It happened. It's an evolution. It's kind of a metamorphosis. One of the things you mentioned, I read a lot of books, and that actually was a part of my development. I started reading like literally 2 books a week, and I had such a different perspective of the world and of our country and politics. And really, it started on the local, watching the big picture and seeing how our country was changing, but also seeing on the local level certain things. And actually, there were 2 things to me where I lived in Mid-Beach. I wanted to see more police presence. I want to see better lighting. And I've actually partly accomplished that. But I didn't say I'm going to run for commissioner right away. I was commissioner for 4 years before I became mayor. I said, well, how am I going to get this done? So I started going to some community meetings. Then I reached out to the commissioners, and I couldn't get it done. And I realized the only way I'm going to get it done is to do it myself. And I didn't have anybody. Some people run because there are people backing them or push. I literally was one person on an island and said, this is what I want to do. I want to make a difference. And I did it.
So you realized if you wanted to accomplish this, you're going to have to either convince other people to do it or get in that to where you could get that done.
Correct.
It wasn't, I want to be this. All right. It was, I want to get this done. So
it was a mission, and this was the only way I believed I could accomplish it.
So often we get lost in the reasons why, and we think we want that. And then as soon as you can find out your reason why, then you find the passion that's necessary to continue to make a difference. So tell us about your sporting activities, some sort of sports that you
love baseball. Played avidly, actually, until about 7, 8 years ago. My friends joked that I gave up baseball. Well, gave up. I was 44 at the time, so I was getting to the age where I was going to have to give it up.
That clock, it keeps ticking.
Yeah, I still had some game, but yeah, the clock was ticking. The hamstrings started going. That really was, and then I kind of went into getting interested in local government. So I think there was probably a correlation there.
Speaking of local government, it seems though Miami-Dade County doesn't want to help pay the cost of police activities when cities are having some events like Miami Beach, where everybody in the whole county benefits a lot. So what has this county told you as far as paying for part of the police?
Yeah, well, they had a vote today actually on it, literally.
And what happened
very
today?
Timely. It's actually a little convoluted. I think the effort is to say, right, let me just explain briefly. It's a mutual aid agreement where the county will provide police services to cities that need them, and there's no cost. It's like for spring break, Miami Beach. The county gave us over 90 police officers, and that would have been a cost of over $600,000 to Miami Beach, which we didn't have to pay. But it's no freebies. We give plenty of money to the county. We gave $273 million just on property taxes last year to the county. So it's kind of, that's the way things should be done. And by the way, Miami Beach will also reciprocate. For example, you had the soccer match where the things went a little haywire and people were jumping over the fences. Well, they didn't call us in advance, but once we got the call that there was a problem, Miami Beach sent over 15, 20 officers on the spot. That's what it is. We should all be this together. But unfortunately, they're playing politics, and they're basically saying, well, no, we're not going to pay for that anymore. It's kind of a moot point because there's going to be a sheriff elected in November, and the sheriff's going to make those determinations. So this is a short-term issue.
And that's a pretty big position. It's going to be a budget of almost $1 billion, maybe even a little bit more. That's not quite 10% of the budget of the whole county, but that's going to be a pretty big position. So for the people that don't know, there's a Democratic and there's a Republican candidate for that. This is the runoff, and last day to vote is November 5th, and then early voting and absentee ballots prior to that. I got that right?
Well said.
Okay. Vote for the candidate of your choice, right? So one of the things that people can talk about all the time is the government's not transparent enough. We don't know what's going on. We only know when it's over. What can the city do to be more open and more transparent with everybody?
Yeah, that's actually one of the top things on my mind always, to make sure that we are being transparent. Actually, I've run a number of initiatives. For example, we have audits now that are available online that were not available before. We have certain certain land use items that we give businesses special exemptions. It was not available online. I brought an item to make sure that was. Even development that was going on in our city, it was hard to know what's going on, what's being built, what's been approved, what's up in the pipeline. Now it's all available online on initiative I brought. So it's really important that we do that. And one of the items also is sometimes things get brought late to commission. Maybe it just gets on late. I'm actually very hesitant to have that happen because residents might not have the ability to see if they want to that item is on. And residents should have the ability to reach out to me, to call me, not just me, our whole commission. There's 7 of us. There's the mayor and 6 commissions, to call us, to email us. Sometimes we have community charrettes and meetings. So it's vital. It's always first and foremost in my mind to make sure that the public has the right to be heard and has all the information that they need.
A few years ago, Miami-Dade County proposed, and I think that it passed, is to reduce the number of neighbors that would receive a postcard for a zoning change that was happening in the neighborhood. They cut it by 2/3, actually a little bit more, and to reduce the requirement of having to post a green sign with the zoning change. That was ugly. We believe in openness.
Sure.
You like it, great. You don't like it, great. But to hide it specifically, if I was a developer, all right, I couldn't have done a better job to hide it. And people want to be open about that. And they want to see it because they want to be able to register their concern, whether it's complaint or otherwise. Frequently at some commission meetings, sometimes neighbors get very passionate. And sometimes you might say they're almost out of control. How does the city of Miami Beach handle that?
Luckily, actually, I would say just in my interactions generally, people always say, oh my God, it must be so hard. I said, actually, 99% of my interactions with people and residents are extremely positive. People are appreciative of, first of all, I get back to people, I respond. So people appreciate that. If somebody wants a meeting, I give it to them. Generally, people come in, they're passionate, but they're respectful of the process. The one issue we probably have had is we've had these pro-Hamas individuals come in and to some of our meetings, and we deal with it as it comes. But otherwise, it's mostly very respectful.
So obviously, people want to be heard. And I was interviewing Rabbi Manis Friedman, one of the top Orthodox YouTuber in the country. And I said to him, Rabbi, I had a very intimate moment with my wife. I was holding her hand. He wrote a book called The Joy of Intimacy. I said, how can I get more of those moments? And he said to me, Michael, it's all about them. It's about them, nobody else. So then I asked him, Rabbi, how do you want to be remembered? And he says to me, why do you think I want to be remembered?
Wow.
True to his form. And he's been doing it for 50 years. And in the small world it is, been married for 40 years. My wife is at least that old. When she was a teenager, she used to go to classes that he offered in Minnesota when she was a teenager. And so the point of when somebody goes up to speak, it's about them. Mm-hmm. It's not about the people on the other side. And so we see when we go to commission meetings, people just want to say their piece and then point the finger at you and have a nice day and leave. So my hat's off to the bodies of government that can keep that under control and being respectful. And sometimes we see the county commission cut off people, and sometimes it's just terrible. And I know they have to keep some sort of protocol. But recently, you might remember that Ron McGill stood up and he had said concerning the Miami Wildlife Program park down in Metro Zoo, he said, I've been protecting animals for 40 years. If I don't stand up for this, what has my life been about? And I applaud him for that. Most recently, a whistleblower for the state let it out that there was a plan to develop 7 or 9 parks throughout the state and put hotels and pickleball courts, and the people stood up. Mm-hmm. and they wanted to be heard, and they were. And so the state put everything on hold. Unfortunately, he got fired. But it was the same thing, which is if I don't say something, this could happen. So I hope the people that are out there that are hesitant about getting up and saying something, get up and go to Miami Beach and say your piece and be respectful and let them know on the other end what you're thinking.
Absolutely. I welcome it. I want people to, and half the battle, I had somebody reach out to me, they wanted to do something, and I said, I think it's going to be very difficult, and I sat down with him, I explained why, I got the city manager involved, and ultimately the answer was no. What he was asking was it's against our zoning laws, and he would not get commission approval. And he is so thankful to me. I ran into him the other day. He's like, "Thank you for giving me the time. You showed me
Wonderful.
the respect." And it's funny, sometimes you do have to say no.
Yes.
Although a lot of times we get to obviously we get to the yes, and that's really, it's, people see the big picture, obviously the legislation. That's ultimately what people see us for and know us for, and that's extremely important. But there's so much daily emails and things that are going on, a pothole here, a tree issue here, and we're addressing them literally daily.
That's wonderful.
And I have a great team that helps me with that, and people are respectful and appreciative of it.
So Mayor, on your journey of life, I'm sure there have been people that have helped you and that perhaps were mentors of yours. I'd like to, if you'd be interested, is to look into this camera right over here, and Danny's going to point to, there you go, right on that camera there. And if you would, why don't you thank them for us, whether they're here or not, and if you want to use their name, that would be terrific. If not, that's okay too.
Wow. Okay. Well, I'm going to go with the family. Well,
Okay.
my mom and dad, and my wife and kids, they're my rock. I couldn't do it without them. They not only the support and the amount of time that I have to spend doing this, but also just supporting me every step of the way. Even though, if it was up to them, probably initially they thought it was a big leap to run for office. But I'll give you a quick story. I said recently, my daughter said, "You're going to run for mayor again, right?" And I'm like, "Well, we should talk about it." She's like, "What's there to talk about?" She's like, "You're doing a great job. People are happy with you. It's important. You love it." And I said, "Well, if I don't run, I'd have more time to spend at home." She goes, "You're home every night." She goes, "You need to help our city." I mean, this is a 12-year-old girl whose dad is spending all this time. But it just shows you, I think, what I got out of that also, I'm imparting on them the importance of public service and helping other people, and hopefully that helps them in their life and their endeavors in life.
Well, the eyes of the little children are always watching us.
They are.
Mayor Steve Miner, thank you very much.
Awesome.
Appreciate it. Folks, again, thank you for joining us. And remember, take care of yourselves and your family. Have a good day.